students, welcome. This is Ms. Mercado speaking. We are covering Accounting 2402. This is Principles of Managerial Accounting. And this presentation or this lecture covers both my online and my face-to-face students. Due to the coronavirus issue that we're having currently, my traditional class has had to move to an online environment. So now both of my classes that I was teaching managerial accounting in are online. Now, I was not doing videos before for my online class because they're very time consuming to produce, okay? I have to prep for the video, record the video, upload the video, make some edits to it, include closed caption, and then transfer or upload the video into Blackboard. It is a long process. It takes about 3 hours, 4 hours to do. So, very time consuming. So I didn't have the time to be able to do all of these videos because I was teaching face to face. So, that takes up a lot of my time having to be in a classroom setting. Now that I'm not in a classroom setting, I'm able and I do have the time to record these videos. So, because I am recording these videos for my traditional class, I'm going to share it for my online class. That way both of my managerial accounting classes have the same information. Okay? So what I'm going to be doing every week that we cover a chapter until a decision is made whether we're going back or not to an actual campus, I am going to be recording. So while we're in an online environment, I'm going to have the time to be able to record these videos and post them for you. Okay? So I will be doing a lecture. It is long because, as you know, my traditional students know, we spend a good 4 hours a week solving problems in class, and sometimes we don't even get to finish them. Okay? And all we do is problem solving. So I'm going to try to run through them as fast as I can, but trying to explain the process that way you have as a supplement. I know there's some video tutorials or some video examples in Cengage. This is to supplement that. Okay? My face-to-face students, my students that we were meeting in Starr County, shout out to you guys. I miss you very much. I miss the interaction with you. I miss seeing you every Tuesday and Thursday. I hope all of you are staying safe. And I know you all are used to or accustomed to seeing me and going through the questions and having, raising your hand and having questions, and we discuss it in class. Well, because now we're online, we don't have that face-to-face interaction. So I'm doing these videos kind of to replace some of that interaction that we were having before in class. Okay? So, reminder. Before you start any of your weekly assignments, please read. Okay? If you do not read the chapter, you're going to be lost. Okay? Make sure that you read the chapter. I posted some PowerPoints on Blackboard. Download those PowerPoints, go over the content, and then I recommend that you do the quiz first. Okay? Complete your quiz for the week. Get that out of the way. Those are multiple choice questions. Very short and brief. Get that out of the way. And then start working on your homework. Before you start working on your homework, listen to the lecture so that way you have an understanding of what's going on. Okay? And then you can give your homework problems a try. Remember, you have 2 tries for your homework and your quiz, and I keep the highest grade earned. Okay? So I don't want to delay it too much here. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to dive in. I'm not covering every single problem that you have for homework, but I am covering the majority of them. I do want to highlight that one of your problems you are going to be having, I think it's, let me get my syllabus over here. I think it's problem 2201. You're going to see that on your test. So I am going to be covering that. That's the last problem that I'm going to be covering for you. So please pay close attention to that, okay, when I get to that problem, okay? But I'm going to just dive into the problems. That way we can start working them out. And like I said, I will be doing these videos while we're in an online environment, okay? The 4 hours a week that we were meeting face-to-face, I'm going to use those 4 hours that I had for my traditional students, and I'm investing those 4 hours to make these videos for you. Now, I also want to stress, if you have questions, if you're confused, if you don't understand something, please contact me. I've provided in Blackboard my Blackboard messages. You can contact me through there. You can send me an email, or you can call or text me. There's also a button on the right hand side. Let me see if I can show you. This is a button here for an online chat. You can go ahead and you can go there, and you can chat with me. Okay? You can send me a message. You can send your class a message, and we can communicate through there. Just so many avenues that we can use to communicate with each other. If you are struggling, if you need additional support, let me know. Maybe I can create a Zoom session for you, or we can do something, okay, so we can get your questions clarified, okay? But don't stay quiet. If you stay quiet, there is no way I'm going to know that you're struggling, okay? I'm here to help you. We are towards the end of the semester. After we cover, we're already in week number 12. After we finish this week, we only have 4 more weeks to go, and the finals exam week. So we're almost there, guys, almost at the finish line. Please, if anything is going on in your life, you know, that's affecting your ability to complete your assignments, let me know, and I will work with you. You just need to let me know, and don't let me know, you know, the day the semester is gonna end, because at that point I cannot do anything for you. If you need help, let me know right now so we can work out a plan and make sure that you succeed and you complete this course successfully. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the first exercise here is exercise 22-2. Okay, so this problem reads: Santa Rosa Furniture Company manufactures designer home furniture. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it for now. Okay, so it says they manufacture home furniture. Santa Rosa uses a standard cost system. The direct labor, direct materials, and factory overhead standards for an unfinished dining room table are as follows. So they're focusing on making a dining room table. So they've given you the direct labor. Okay, the rate, it's $18 per hour. That is how much we pay our employees. It takes about, the standard time per unit is 3.5 hours. So it takes us about 3.5 hours to manufacture a table. The direct materials, these tables are made of oak. Standard price is $15 a board of feet. The quantity, the standard quantity of boards that we need in feet are 26. Okay. The variable factory overhead, the standard rate is $4.20 per direct labor hour. And the fixed factory overhead, the standard rate is $1.80 per direct labor hour. They are asking us A, to determine the standard cost per dining room table, and B, why would Santa Rosa Furniture Company use a standard cost system? Okay, so let me make this a little bit smaller, that way I can work it out. So I'm going to be working down here. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, they're asking us to determine, this is requirement A. Okay. Well, let me see if I can make these a little bit bigger. And I'm just gonna make everything bigger. That way we get to see it a little bit better. Okay, so requirement A, they're asking us to find the standard cost per dining room table. Okay, now this includes my labor, my materials, my variable, and my fixed overhead. Okay, so let's start off with our direct labor. Okay, direct, oh, I misspelled direct, guys. Direct labor. Okay, so for my direct labor, we need to figure out how much am I paying my employees. Okay, my standard rate is $18 per hour, and it is taking me 3.5 hours to manufacture each dining room table. So I've got $18 an hour times 3.5 hours. Okay, and let's see what that gives us. And I'm going to put my calculations over here. Okay, so I don't want to use a calculator because I'm using Excel. I'm just going to do the calculations within the actual Excel worksheet. So it's $18 times 3.5 hours. That's $63. Okay, so all we do is we multiply. So I'm going to spend $63 in direct labor to manufacture, to make one dining room table. Okay, that's for my direct labor. Now I need my direct materials. Okay, for my direct materials, let's look at here. It's it cost us $15 per board feet, and we need 26 of them, okay? So I am paying $15 per every board feet, and I need 26, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna multiply that, and I'm sorry, escape. I'm just gonna copy the formatting here, okay? So I've got the direct materials. It's $15 per board feet, and I need 26 of them. So I'm gonna get the $15 times 26 boards, and that is gonna give me $390. So I'm gonna spend $63 in labor, $390 in materials. Then I need to figure out my variable factory overhead, okay? For my variable factory overhead, it says here that it's going to be $4.20 per direct labor hour. So it's $4.20 per direct labor hour. How many direct labor hours did we have? Well, we have 3.5 direct labor hours. So we're going to multiply by 3.5 hours. Okay? And let's see what that gives us. Okay? So it's going to be $4.20 times 3.5 hours. That gives me $14.70 in variable factory overhead. Now I need my fixed factory overhead. And for my fixed factory overhead, my standard rate is $1.80 per direct labor hour. So it's $1.80 per direct labor hour, and it takes us 3.5 hours to make these tables. Okay. And I'm going to do my calculation here. $1.80 times 3.5 hours, that's $6.30. Now I can calculate my total cost per unit. How much am I going to spend to manufacture one dining room table, including labor, materials, variable factory overhead, and fixed factory overhead? Well, to do that, you just add all of your costs. So I'm going to add my $63 plus my $390 plus my $14.70 plus my $6.30. Okay? And that's going to give me $474. So that is how much I am going to spend to manufacture a dining room table. Okay? That is requirement A. Determine the standard cost per dining room table. On average, this is how much I'm going to spend to manufacture a table. Okay? Now, requirement B. Why would Santa Rosa Furniture Company use a standard cost system? Okay? I'm going to put my requirement B here on the side. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay? And I'm going to change this to requirement B. Okay? So, requirement B. Why would Santa Rosa Furniture Company use a standard cost system? Basically, a standard cost system, I have my capsule icon. A standard cost system provides the company's management let me move that word down, that way we can see it. The company's management, okay, a cost control tool using the principle management by exception. Using this principle, cost that deviates significantly, this is very important, significantly, okay, by a lot, from standards need to be investigated and corrected. Okay. So basically what the standard cost system does, it based on data that has been gathered, based on, you know, proven facts, you know, on average, we should be spending these amounts in each of the components, whether labor, materials, variable or fixed overhead, okay? It should take us 3.5 hours to manufacture a table, okay? And we are paying our employees $18 an hour. If it starts taking us 5 hours to manufacture a table, we need to figure out why is it taking us 5 hours when a week ago we could do it in 3.5 hours, okay? Are people lazy? Are they taking too many breaks? Is the person new? You know, what is going on, okay? The same thing with materials. It's taking me, you know, on average, my standard is that every table is going to take 26 board feet of oak. If all of a sudden, I'm not using 26 board feet, I'm using 35. What's happening? Are we scrapping too much oak? Why are we using, you know, are we doing bad cuts? Are we, you know, not using our materials efficiently? You need to figure out what is happening that we are deviating from our standards. These standards will change, okay? They're not set in stone. They're going to have to be reevaluated. But if these standards are correct and accurate, they should be very close to the actual cost spent. So this is what is actually what we're targeting. Standards are basically performance goals, okay? And these standards are used to be able to manage, okay, operations and ensure we're in line with what our standards were set, okay? And then we compare our standards with our actual and identify the deficiencies. You know, are we doing better than what we had anticipated? Or are we doing worse? Or what is going on, okay? So it basically just is a way of managing our cost and controlling our operations more effectively, okay? So this is how we came up with the cost per unit. All of the information was provided to you in the problem. It's just a matter of identifying what you're using, okay? So pretty straightforward for that problem. Now the next one we have going on here is exercise 22-3. Okay, now this was a little bit more complicated. They make it a little bit bigger here just so you can read it, okay? So it says, Genie in a Bottle Company manufactures plastic 2-liter bottles of for the beverage industry. Okay, so we make the empty bottles for the Coke, okay? The cost standard per 100 2-liter bottles are as follows, okay? So these are the cost for 100 2-liter bottles. So I'm going to spend in labor $2, in materials $9.10, and in factory overhead 55 cents. So I'm spending a total of $11.65 to manufacture 100 2-liter bottles, okay? Now, they are asking us here, at the beginning of July, GBC management planned to produce 400,000 bottles. That is what they're planning. The actual number of bottles produced for July were 406,000 bottles. The actual cost for July for the current year were as follows. Okay? We have direct labor of $7,540, direct materials of $35,750, and factory overhead of $26,800. Total cost $45,970. Our first requirement: prepare the July manufacturing standard cost budget. This is for direct labor, materials, and factory overhead for GBC, assuming planned production. So let's tackle that first, okay? So let me make this a little bit smaller. That way I can work on the bottom here, okay? So the first thing that we want to do, this is requirement A, okay? Requirement, God, I need to get rid of my nails. I can't type, guys. Requirement A, okay? So let me just make this a little bit bigger. Make it a 14 here. Hopefully we can see a little bit bigger, okay? Okay, so requirement A. So they're wanting us to create a manufacturing cost budget. Prepare a manufacturing cost budget for July. So let me set it up, okay? So we have Genie in a Bottle, okay? That's the name of the company. This is going to be a manufacturing cost budget, okay? And this is for the month ended July the 31st. Here we go again with my typos. Okay. So this is what we're doing, and we need 2 columns. One of them is about that big, and then the other one's not that big. Okay. So I'm gonna merge this. That way we can have the information. Okay. Now I'm using Excel because it's just easier for me rather than me writing it. I don't have very nice penmanship, so I don't want to like type or write something out and share my handwriting where you're not going to understand half that I write, because I do write pretty ugly. Okay, so I just use Excel. That way you can see what I'm doing, and I can do my calculations in here as well. I don't have to be using a calculator. Okay, I'm just a fan of using Excel. So let's start. They're asking us, and I don't think we're gonna need, well, I'm just gonna leave it there just in case. They're asking us to figure out the manufacturing costs. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like. Okay, our manufacturing cost budget, this is what's gonna look like. There's 3 types of cost, and we should know this by now. We have our labor, our materials, and our overhead. So we're gonna start off with our direct labor. Okay. Now, my direct labor. Okay. It says here that I'm going to spend $2 to manufacture 100 2-liter bottles. Okay. The problem says that our standard, okay, it says here that we are preparing a standard cost budget. So how many bottles did we anticipate we were going to produce? It says here that we had planned to produce 400,000 bottles. Okay. So I'm going to do my calculation for direct labor over here, down here, okay, just so we can have as reference. So how am I calculating this? Well, my direct labor, it says right here that it's $2, okay, and I know that I'm going to manufacture 400,000 bottles. That is how much the standard is. It says right here, we plan to produce 400,000 bottles, okay? And I am going to divide, okay, by 100 units, because we are producing, we are spending $2 for every 100 2-liter bottles, okay? So we need to divide that by the 100 units, because we need to figure out how many, we're spending $2 per 100. That's basically what it's saying, okay? So let's run the calculations. Okay, I'm going to do the calculations in Excel. So it'll be $2, and then I'm going to, oh my God, here we go. And then I'm going to do 400,000 divided by 100 units. Okay, and that's going to give me $8,000. Okay, so my direct labor is going to be the $2. And I'm going to multiply that by my 400,000 units divided by my 100 per unit cost, okay? And that's going to give me $8,000. So my direct labor is going to be $8,000, okay? So I'm basically just going to link it. That way I know I got that from there, okay? Now, my direct materials. I'm going to put here, I'm going to put direct materials. Here I'm going to put calculations, okay? That way we know these are my calculations. Oh my Lord. Calculations. Here we go. Okay? So, for my direct materials, same calculation, but here we're spending $9.10 per every 100 2-liter bottles, okay? So, $9.10. Okay? Our standard is 400,000 bottles. And I'm going to divide it by 100 because they're grouped into units of 100 bottles. Okay. So I'm going to do $9.10. And then I'm going to do the 400,000. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to divide it by 100. And then that's going to give me 36,400. So that is how much I'm going to spend in materials. I'm going to spend $36,400 in materials. then I have my factory overhead. Okay. For my factory overhead, I spend 55 cents for every 100 bottles. Okay. So I'm going to do 55 cents. And then I'm going to do my 400,000 divided by my 100 units. And let's see what we get. So that's 55 cents. And then I'm going to do the 400,000 divided by my 100 units. And then that's going to give me 400,000, $2,200. There we go. Okay. So my factory overhead is $2,200. Okay. This is the formulas that we're using down here. Okay. So now I can figure out my total cost. Okay. Your total is going to be the sum of your labor, materials, and overhead. Okay. That's $46,600 right there. Okay. That is your manufacturing cost budget. $46,600. Okay. And I'm just going to put here, that way we know the cost standards are expressed as per 100 bottles. So all of these costs associated are based on 100 bottles, right? That's why we're doing those calculations of dividing their standard by 100 units. Okay? So that is what we're doing. I don't know what that is. Here we go. So these are our calculations. And this is my total cost. That is requirement A. Okay? Requirement B, I'm going to do it here on the side. And I'm going to change this to B. Requirement B says prepare a budget performance report for manufacturing costs showing the total cost variances for direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead for July. Okay? So, here we're going to need a couple of more columns. Okay, so we're going to do genie in a bottle. Okay, and then this is a manufacturing costs, and then this is a budget performance report. That's what they're wanting us to do here, a budget performance report. Budget performance report. Okay, and this is for the month ended July the 31st. And then we're going to need about 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's going to be bigger. Okay. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All of this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just give me a second here so I can format this correctly, and then we can get started on it. Okay. So this is what it should look like. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got one too many. I don't need this one. Okay. There we go. That is what we need. Okay. So this one just needs to be a little bit bigger. So this is how your requirement B should be set up. Okay. Now they're asking us to prepare a budget performance report showing the total cost variances for direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead. Okay. So here in this column, we're going to have the actual costs. Okay. Here we're going to have the standard cost. Okay. And here we're going to have the cost variance. Okay. Now, if it's favorable, it's going to be in parentheses, and then unfavorable will not have parentheses. Unfavorable will not have parentheses. Okay. So the cost variance is going to be either favorable or unfavorable. So we need to figure out, first of all, do we have a variance? And if we do, how much? Okay? So let's start off with our manufacturing costs. Manufacturing costs. Okay? The first thing we have as a manufacturing cost is our direct labor. Okay? Now, your actual costs. Okay? Your actual costs are given up here. Okay? In your problem, the actual costs are provided. Okay? Let me just shape fill, no shape, and then let me do this. Okay? So the actual costs are given to you right here. Okay? 75.40, 35.750, and 26.80. Okay? And your total 45.970. So I'm just going to copy those actual cost numbers into my actual column. So I'm going to have my direct labor, my direct materials, and my factory overhead. Okay? For my actual costs, I'm just going to copy those numbers down. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to bring those numbers down. My labor is 75.40. My materials is 35.750. Oh, sorry. 35.750. And my factory overhead is 26.80. And my total is 45.970. So I'm just copying these numbers down here. Okay? Let me put some commas, that way we can see it. Okay? Okay? There we go. Now we need to do our standard cost. Now we did calculate standard cost here, but be very careful because these standard costs are for the production of 400,000 bottles. I'm sorry. Okay? Now, how many bottles did we actually produce? Okay? These actual costs are associated with manufacturing 406,000 bottles. We manufactured more than what we had anticipated. Okay? So, because we manufactured more, now we need to go ahead and we can't compare oranges to apples. We need to make them match. So we need to rerun these calculations for my standard cost. Instead of using 400,000, we're going to use 406,000. Okay? So that way we can match up our bottles from 400 to 406,000. So we're basically going to rerun these calculations, but instead of using 400,000, we are going to use 406,000. So because I'm using Excel, I'm going to just copy and paste, and I'm going to just do this one change here. Okay? I'm going to change my formula. The formula will stay the same. The only thing that we're changing is the units, okay? In the prior calculation, we were calculating based on the standard production of 400,000. Here, because we are doing a budget performance report comparing actual to standard, we need to make sure that they're apples to apples. I'm going to compare my actual cost for manufacturing 406,000 bottles to the standard cost of manufacturing 406,000 bottles. Okay, so we just have to do that minor change in our calculations. So we have to rerun those calculations and let's see what they give us. Okay. Let me get my calculator out. Let me see. Calculator. Well, I think I can do it here. Okay, yeah, I'll just do it here. That way you all can see it. So it will be my $2. Well, you know what? I'll just copy these as well. Copy, copy, and then I'll just change this to 406. Okay? So if you notice, all I'm doing is I'm updating the formula. Instead of it being 400,000 units, now it's 406,000 units. Okay? These are my updated amounts right here. Okay? So if I were to manufacture 406,000 bottles, remember every case of bottles is per 100 units, and I spend $2 per 100 units. This is how much I would spend. Okay, so Same calculations as before. The only thing that changes is the quantity. Now we are manufacturing 406. Okay, so I'm going to put those costs here. Okay, so I've got my actual cost for my, for my labor, for my materials, and for my overhead. And then my total is going to be that. Okay, $47,299. I'm going to get rid of some decimals, right? Okay, so here we have my actual cost. This is what you actually spent. This is what we anticipated you should have spent when you produce those 406,000 bottles. Okay, now we need to figure out our variance. Okay, if it's a favorable variance, you put it in parentheses. If it's an unfavorable variance, you don't put parentheses. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to compare. Okay, for labor, you spend the actual cost you spend was $7,540. You anticipating spending $8,121. So I'm going to get my actual minus my standard, and that's going to give me $580 favorable. Now, why is it favorable? It is favorable because you spend less actual. Your actual is less than your standard. You spend less than what you had anticipated spending. Okay, so that means that you were efficient. Okay, your people were efficient. Okay, now let's do materials. Okay. You spent $35,750. You had anticipated spending $36,000. So once again, I have a favorable variance. You spend less money in materials than what you anticipated. That's good. Okay, that means that you took advantage of very good use of your materials. How about your overhead? You spent $26.80 on overhead. You had anticipated spending $22.33. Okay? Now here you spend more than what you anticipated, so that should be an unfavorable variance. Okay. Now your total, guys, I misspelled manufacturing here. Help me out, manufacturing. There we go. Double T, no, let's get rid of that. Okay. Okay, so I spent $45,970 to manufacture 406,000 bottles. We anticipated you were going to spend $47,299. I have a favorable variance of $1,329. You spent $1,329 less than what you anticipated you were going to spend. Okay, so you did really good. Okay. Now, this is the completed manufacturing cost budget performance report. Okay, you have your cost, your actual versus your standard, and then your variance, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. Okay, so here is what we're looking at regarding, did we spend more or less than what we had anticipated? Okay, so that is the second requirement. Third requirement we have is interpret the budget performance report. Okay, so interpret the report, interpret the budget performance report, specifically this report. They're wanting us to interpret it. Okay, so let me put the requirement C over here, and here we have the interpretation. Okay, so if we look, genie in a bottle. Okay, actual cost were $1,329 less than budgeted. This is our budgeted amount. This is what we actually spend. We spend less. We spend less than what we had budgeted. Okay? Okay. We have a favorable direct labor and direct material cost variance. Okay, we have favorable right here, direct labor and materials cost variance, more than offset a small unfavorable, okay, overhead cost variance. Okay. So overall, Genie in a Bottle spent less money than what they had budgeted. They spent $1,329 less, which is good. We had a favorable direct labor and direct materials cost variance. It means that we were more efficient in our operations. We spent less money in labor, less money in materials. Okay. We did have an unfavorable factory overhead, but it was minimal. And our favorable variances basically covered that unfavorable variance. We still came out favorable overall. Okay. So this is our requirement B. We have to do the manufacturing cost budget. Remember, this is for 400,000 units. Then we have to do a budget performance report because we're doing an actual production of 406,000 bottles. We had to rerun our calculations for 406,000 to get our standard cost. Okay, and once we have our standard cost, which is basically your budget, you compare your actual to your budget and you figure out your variance. Is it favorable or unfavorable? If your actual cost is less than your budgeted or your standard cost, that is a favorable variance. If your actual cost is more than your standard cost, then that's an unfavorable variance. Okay? Good. Okay, we're moving on to exercise 22-9. So it says here, La Batterie Bicycle Company manufactures commuter bicycles from recycled materials. The following data for July for the current year are available. Okay. So the quantity of direct labor used, 5,050 hours. The actual rate for direct labor, $16.80 per hour. The bicycles completed in April, 1,000 bicycles. The standard direct labor per bicycle, 5.4 hours. And the standard rate for direct labor, $16 per hour. A. Determine the direct labor rate variance, the direct labor time variance, and the total direct labor cost variance. So they're asking us to calculate three different variances. Okay? So let's start off with our rate variance. Let me make this a little bit bigger, guys. Maybe a 16, and let me format all of this that way. Okay. So we're gonna do our rate variance first, okay? And your direct labor, I'm gonna put the formula here. Our direct labor rate variance, okay, equals our actual rate per hour minus our standard rate per hour, okay, times our actual hours. Okay, that is the formula. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. So my direct labor rate variance is the actual rate per hour minus the standard rate per hour times the actual hours. Okay? So, let me make this bigger. Okay. So now all we basically need to do is we need to plug in those numbers. Okay? Okay? So, my actual rate per hour. Okay? Actual rate per hour. Okay? It says here your actual rate per direct labor hour is $16.80. Okay, so I'm going to open my parentheses, $16.80. I'm going to subtract your standard rate per hour. Your standard rate per hour, right here, standard rate per hour is $16. $16, okay? And then you're going to multiply times your actual hours, okay? Your actual hours are quantity of direct labor used. We use 5,050 hours. Here we're figuring out labor rate variance. So you have to look at your labor hours. I use 5,050 hours. Okay? So we're going to run those calculations in your calculator, and let's see what it gives us, okay? So, the first thing I do is 1680 minus 16. That's 0.8. And I'm going to multiply that by 50 hours. And that gives me 4,040. Okay? So, my answer here is 4,040. Now, we need to figure out, is this a favorable or unfavorable variance? Okay? So, you have to compare your actual to your standard or your budgeted. Okay? So, you spent $16.80. You had anticipated or you had budgeted to spend $16. Did you pay more or less than what you had anticipated? In this case, we paid more. I paid more. I paid $16.80 when we had budgeted $16. So because we paid more, this is an unfavorable variance. Okay? So you always compare your actual to your standard. If your actual is greater than your standard, then it's unfavorable. Okay? So that's my direct labor rate variance. Okay? Now I'm going to do my direct labor time variance. Okay? For my direct labor time variance, okay, let me make this. Okay. My formula is going to be very similar. Okay. It's going to be your actual direct labor hours minus your standard direct labor hours, okay, close parentheses, times your standard rate per hour. Okay. This is your formula right here. Your actual direct labor hours minus your standard direct labor hours times your standard rate per hour. Okay. So now we just fill in the formula. Sorry. Okay. So my actual, and we have to go back and look at this information. Your actual direct labor hours. Okay. Actual, the quantity of direct labor hours used is 5,050. That is given to you. Okay. You spend or you used 5,050 hours of labor. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna subtract from your standard direct labor hours. Okay. Now that is not given to you. That you need to calculate. Let me get out of the formula here so I can figure this out. Okay. So let me show you here the data that you're going to be using. Okay. So we need this information right here. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. So they do tell you here that the standard direct labor per bicycle is 5.4 hours. And they do tell you that you completed 1,000 bicycles. Okay. So your standard, your standard direct labor hours is equal to the 5.4 hours times the 1,000 bicycles. And then what does that give us? Let me get a calculator. 5.4 times 1,000, that's $5,400. 5,400 hours, I'm sorry, 5,400 hours. Okay. So let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. This is how we calculate our standard direct labor hours. Okay. We know that my standard rate is 5.4 hours per bike. I know that we manufactured 1,000 bikes, so that's going to give me 5,400 hours. Okay. So minus 5,400 hours, and then times my standard rate per hour. Your standard rate per hour is $16 per hour. Okay? So this is what your formula looks like. Okay? So we're going to plug that in into our calculator. Okay. So let me get my calculator out. So I've got 50/50 minus 5,400, that's 350, negative 350, times $16, that's going to be 5,600. You see, it's negative. What is it, when it comes out negative, what does it mean? It means that it's a favorable variance, okay? Favorable. Whenever you see a negative here, it means favorable, okay? So I've got 5,600, and remember, it's negative, so make sure that you put it in parentheses, okay? 5,600, and this is favorable, okay? Now, why is it favorable, okay? Well, let's analyze this. We had budgeted we were going to spend 5,400 hours to manufacture the bikes. We actually spent 50 hours to manufacture. So what does that mean? That means that we spend less time than we had anticipated to manufacture the bikes. Okay? Because we spend less time, that means less cost. So that's a favorable variance. We spend less time making the bicycles than what we had anticipated. In this top one, we had anticipated that we were going to pay $16 an hour when we ended up paying $16.80. We spent more than what we had anticipated. That is why it was unfavorable, okay? So that is my second calculation. My third calculation is my direct, my total. Okay, well, what did they ask about? Total direct labor cost. Okay. Total direct labor cost variance. And that is going to be your direct labor rate variance plus your direct labor time variance. So if you get either of these two incorrect, then that third one is going to be wrong. So you need to make sure that you get those correct. Okay? Okay? So, my direct labor rate variance was 40/40. Unfavorable. Unfavorable. And I'm going to add right here my 40/40 unfavorable, and I'm going to add my 5,600 favorable. Let's see what we get. So we have 40/40 plus 40/40. Oh, my fingers. So I'm going to get 1,560 favorable. Okay, so you add the favorable plus the unfavorable plus the favorable, and you get 1,560 minus, which means it's a favorable variance. Okay, so it'll be 1,560 favorable. Okay, so all you do is you grab these amounts right here, and you put them in your calculation for the third requirement. Okay, okay. The 40/40 unfavorable plus the 5,600 negative favorable, and that's gonna give you the 1,560 favorable. Okay. So overall, my total direct labor cost variance, whether it be the rate or the time, ended up being 1,506 favorable. Okay. Why? Well, we had a 4,040 unfavorable variance in my direct labor rate, and I had a 5,600 favorable direct labor time variance, giving me the total direct labor cost variance of 1,560 favorable. Okay. Now, requirement B. How much direct labor should be debited to work in process? Okay, requirement B. Okay, requirement B. how much should we be debiting to work in process? Okay. So first I'm going to get my standard hours at actual production. Okay. And we calculated our standard hours at actual production up here. Standard direct labor hours, the 5.4 hours times my 1,000 bicycles, we have 5,400 hours. Okay. So what is your standard hours at actual production? We have 5,400 hours. Okay. We're going to multiply by our standard rate. Okay. My standard rate is $16. Okay. So my standard direct labor cost, let me underline that, it'll be the 5,400 times the 16, that's going to be $86,400. Okay? That is the amount that we should be debiting our working process for, the $86,400. Okay? It's your standard hours at actual production times your standard rate, and that's going to give you your standard direct labor cost of $86,400. Okay. So all of these formulas, guys, and examples are included in your ebook. Make sure that you read the chapter, you follow the examples. It's very useful. That way you just know how to apply. And then when looking for unfavorable or unfavorable variances, just compare your actual to your standard. If your actual is greater than your standard, then it's unfavorable. If your actual is less than your standard, then it's a favorable variance. Okay? Now this is the last problem I'm going to go over. This is problem 22-1. This is very similar to what we just did. You're going to have something similar to this on your test. Okay? So it says, Abbeville Fixture Company manufactures faucets in a small manufacturing facility. The faucets are made from brass. Manufacturing has 90 employees. Each employee presently provides 36 hours of labor per week. Information about a production week is as follows. So my standard wage per hour is $15. My standard labor time per faucet is 40 minutes. My standard number of pounds of brass is 3 pounds. My standard price per pound of brass is $2.40. The actual price per pound of brass is $2.50. The actual pounds of brass used during the week are 14,350 pounds. The number of faucets produced during the week are 4,800, and the actual wage per hour is $14.40. And my actual hours for the week are 90 employees times 36 hours, that's 3,240. They're asking us to determine A, the standard cost per unit for direct materials and direct labor, B, the direct materials price variance, direct materials quantity variance, and the total direct material cost variance, and C, the direct labor rate variance, the direct labor time variance, and the total direct labor cost variance. Okay? So I am going to run through this a little bit faster because we have been exposed to these calculations previously. So we should be, a little bit more familiar with it. Okay. So let's set this up. Okay. So requirement, I'll start here. Hopefully you'll fit. Requirement A. Okay, let me just make that a little bit bigger. Let me make it a 16. Okay. So requirement A, okay? They're asking us for requirement A to do the standard cost per unit, okay? So I'm going to set this up maybe like this, okay? So here I'm going to put my standard materials and labor cost per faucet. Okay. Let me wrap text, that way it's more sorted. Okay. So here we go. So we're going to start off with my direct materials. Okay. for my direct materials, okay, and they're asking you for the standard cost per unit for direct materials and direct labor. Standard cost. So we're going to look at the standard cost, okay, of my brass. That's what my faucets are made out of brass. So my standard price is $2.40, okay, $2.40. And then I'm going to multiply, well, how many pounds of brass do I need? The standard number of pounds of brass do I need to make each faucet? I need 3 pounds, okay? So, it's $2.40 times 3 pounds, that's $7.20, okay? That's my materials. Then I have my direct labor. Okay. So let's look at my labor. Okay. My standard wage, because remember we're looking at standard cost. My standard wage per hour is $15. Right here, $15. Okay. And here I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a different calculation. Okay. Now it's $15 per hour. Now it's taking me 40 minutes to manufacture one faucet, okay? So I am going to have to do 40 minutes divided by 60 minutes so I can get my correct amount, okay? So I'm going to do 15 times 40 divided by 60 minutes, okay? That's going to be $10, okay? So, I'm going to spend $7.20 in materials to manufacture the faucet. I'm going to spend $10 in labor. That's 40 minutes of my time, okay? But these people are getting paid $15 an hour, so I need to divide the 40 over the 60 times my 15 to get my direct labor cost, okay? So, they're asking you to determine the standard cost per unit. So my cost per unit for materials and labor is going to be the $7.20 plus the $10. That'll be $17.20. Okay. That is requirement A. Requirement B, that direct materials price variance, direct materials quantity variance, and total direct material cost. Okay. Now, which one did we do here? We did labor, not price. Okay. I wanted to copy and paste, but I guess not gonna work for me. Okay. So now let's do requirement B. I'm gonna do requirement. Okay, I think I can continue here. Okay, control copy, control paste, okay? Requirement B. Let's see if this works out, okay? So, the first one we have is the price variance, okay? So my price variance for direct materials, price variance, and this is for direct materials. Now we were specific. Okay, and that's going to be your formula. I'm going to put it down here. That's going to be your, okay, how should I label it? Well, maybe I should just do price variance and then, yeah, just that's fine. Okay, the formula, I'll put it right here. It'll be my actual price, pardon these pop-ups, my actual price minus my standard price, okay, times your actual quantity. Okay. So, your actual price, let's look over here, your actual price per pound is $2.50, okay, minus your standard price. Your standard price is $2.40, okay, and then you're going to multiply by your actual quantity, okay, the actual quantity. The actual quantity of brass used was 14,350 pounds. Okay, and let me fix this. I forgot an L right there. Here we go. Okay, so let's get our calculators out. It's $2.50 minus 240 times 14,350. That's going to give me 1435. Now that's a positive number. Okay, if it's a positive number, it is unfavorable. Okay, so I'm going to put here, if it's positive, it's unfavorable. Okay, maybe I should put right. Let me insert some cells here. Insert. Okay, if positive variance, then unfavorable. If negative variance, then favorable. And that way we have like a little what we mean. Okay, so here it's a positive variance, so it's unfavorable. $1,435 unfavorable. Okay, and why is it unfavorable? Because I spent more than what I budgeted. We've had budgeted to spend $2.40. We budgeted $2.40. We actually spent $2.50. We spent more. Because we spend more, it's unfavorable. Okay? So that's your price variance. That is, and then they're asking us what else on B? Direct materials quantity variance. Okay? Direct materials quantity variance. Okay? For my direct materials quantity variance, I'm going to have my actual quantity, okay, minus my standard quantity, okay, times my standard price. Okay. So, my actual quantity was 14,350, okay? 14,350. Your standard quantity, okay? Now, here it's where it gets a little bit complicated. The standard quantity is not given, but you can calculate it, okay? So your standard quantity, let me do it down here, okay? Your standard quantity, your standard quantity can be calculated. Golly, I can't type. My standard quantity can be calculated. I know that I am manufacturing 4,800 faucets, right? 4,800 faucets, and I know that it takes me 3 pounds, my standard number of brass, it takes me 3 pounds to manufacture each faucet. My standard number of pounds of brass per faucet is 3 pounds. I know that I'm manufacturing 4,800 faucets, so you multiply those together, and that should give you 14,400, okay? This is how you get your standard quantity, okay? The 4,800 faucets that you're manufacturing, and you know that your standard pounds of brass is 3 pounds per faucet. So your standard quantity of pounds of brass you need are 14,400 pounds. Okay, so it'll be, your standard quantity is 14,400, and then you're going to multiply by your standard price, and your standard price, right here, standard price is $2.40. Okay, so let's put that into our calculator, and let's see what we get. We have 14,350 minus 14,400 times 240. That's negative 120. Okay? Negative 120. If we have a negative variance, then that is favorable. Okay? Okay? So that is a favorable variance. Now I'm going to put, for my negative, I'm going to put parentheses, okay, because that way we don't confuse. So we have a favorable variance, okay? Okay. So So that is my direct materials quantity variance. Next we have, those are the two requirements for B, right? Direct materials price variance, and then direct materials cost variance. Price variance, let me see, what am I missing? We have the price variance, direct materials, we have the quantity variance. Okay, now we are missing to calculate their total direct material cost variance. Right here, we have the direct materials price variance, we got the direct materials quantity variance, and now we need the total direct material cost variance. I knew I was missing one thing. Okay, so total direct materials cost variance. Okay, and that is going to equal your direct materials price variance plus your direct materials quantity variance that we've calculated up here. Okay, so what you're basically going to do is just going to get the 1435 plus the 120 negative. Okay, and let's see what that gives us. So it's 1435, that is unfavorable. And then 120 negative, which is favorable. Okay, and then that's going to give us 1435 minus the 120. That's going to give us 1315, and that's going to be 1315 unfavorable. And it's unfavorable because it's the positive minus the negative gives us a positive 1315 unfavorable variance. Okay, so you basically just add those two numbers. Whichever is greater, in this case the unfavorable is greater than my favorable, then that means I'm going to have an unfavorable variance right here. Okay, so that is requirement B. Requirement C is we're going to calculate the labor. This has to do with price and materials. Now we're doing labor. Okay, requirement C. Let me get this requirement C down here. Okay, so requirement C is we have our direct labor rate variance. I was meaning to put it down here. Direct labor rate variance. Okay, so my direct labor rate variance. Okay, this is going to be my actual. Sorry there. It's going to be my actual rate per hour minus my standard rate per hour, okay, times my actual hours. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to bring in those numbers. My actual rate per hour, actual wage per hour is $14.40. Your standard rate per hour, your standard is 15. Okay, so we're going to do the $14.40 minus the $15. Okay, and then we need to multiply by the actual hours. Okay, actual hours is provided here, 32.40 times 32.40. Okay, so let's plug that into our calculator. That's 1440 minus 15 times 3240. That gives me a negative 1944. Remember, if it's negative, it is a favorable variance. Okay? That's It's a favorable variance, and it's favorable because you spend less than what you had budgeted. So it's favorable. Okay, that's my direct labor rate variance. Now I have my direct labor time variance. Okay, your direct labor time variance is your actual direct labor hours minus your standard direct labor hours. I'm going to abbreviate here, guys. Okay, and then times your standard rate per hour. Okay. Okay, so let's put in our numbers. My actual direct labor hours. Okay, actual direct labor hours right here, 3240. We have 3240 hours minus my standard direct labor hours. We had calculated our okay, so we need to calculate our standard direct labor hours. Standard direct labor hours are they didn't give us that. Okay, so we need to calculate that. Okay, so I'm going to do my calculation down here. Standard direct labor hours. Let's do that calculation. Okay, my standard direct labor hours are, we are manufacturing 4,800 faucets once again. Okay, faucets, and I'm gonna multiply. It takes me 40 minutes divided by 60 minutes. Okay, and then that should give us 3,200 hours. Okay, this is my formula. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Right. So my standard direct labor hours is, I know I'm going to manufacture 4,800 faucets. It takes me 40 minutes out of an hour to manufacture. So to manufacture those 4,800 faucets, I need 3,200 hours to be able to manufacture, assuming that it takes me 40 minutes to manufacture. Okay, so my standard direct labor hours are 3,200 hours. That's how I came up with that number. Once we've calculated that number, we just plug it into our equation down here, and then we multiply times our standard rate per hour, and my standard rate per hour is $15. Standard rate per hour, $15. Okay, times $15. Okay, so that is what we're going to be doing. Then we're just going to plug that into our formula, into our calculator. 3,240 minus 3,200 times 15. That gives me a positive 600. If it's a positive number, then it is an unfavorable variance. Okay? Now, why is it unfavorable? It's unfavorable because we anticipated spending 3,200 hours to manufacture those faucets. We spent 3,240 hours. We spent more time than what we had budgeted. That is why it's an unfavorable variance. The last calculation we have here is our direct labor cost variance. Our total, let me not forget the word, total direct labor cost variance. Okay? Our total direct labor cost variance is basically your direct labor rate variance plus your direct labor time variance. Okay? So it's these numbers. You're going to add these two calculations that you have here. And that's going to be, I've got a negative 1944. This is favorable. Plus 600 unfavorable. Okay? And then if we get our calculators, it will be the 1944 plus the 600. That's going to give me 1344 negative number, which is a favorable variance. 1344 favorable. Okay? If you add those two numbers together, it'll give you a negative 1344. Okay. That is the total direct labor, either labor cost variance, material cost variance, is basically just adding your true prior variances, whether it be your direct materials and your quantity or your rate and time. Okay, it's just a matter of adding those to get your total cost. Okay, so these are all of the calculations that we have for that problem. Now this is a very important problem because you're going to see something like this on your test. Okay, please go over each of my calculations closely. I know the presentation is long, but I do try to cover as much as I can. That way you have the resources to be able to just go back and you can view my video as many times as you need to, or you can go back and forth, re-listen to that section to figure out where am I getting my numbers, so you can be able to finish your homework assignment. Okay, this is the last problem I'm going to go over. I want to wish you all luck in your homework. Remember, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me. For week number 12, which runs April 6th through April 12th, from April 6th to April 12th, we are going to be working on chapter 22. Okay, we are going to be covering chapter 22. You do have 2 assignments. You have your chapter 22 homework and your chapter 22 quiz. If you have any questions after you listen to my video, after you read the chapter, do not hesitate to let me know and we can figure something out so we can get your questions answered. Okay, do not feel that you are alone on this. Okay, so that is it for today. Please stay safe from this coronavirus. Try to wash your hands as much as possible. Don't leave your house if you don't need to. That way we can hopefully go back to normality pretty soon. Okay, stay safe, and until next time.